Hey guys, here we are at the official Hyundai Veloster launch for Australia. We're just about to commence our drive program. We've got a few different ones we're going to test today, but right now I'm in the turbo model, I believe, or the top turbo model, I believe. It's got the sunroof, but I'll go over the details a bit later on. The way these things work is a bunch of journalists get to sample the car. We go on a bit of a drive program. They've all set it for us, so we just follow the route, and it gives us a chance to have a first steer of the car. We usually get about a day to drive the car, so we'll go for lunch or something and go to some nice restaurant. But it's a good opportunity just to sample the car for a first drive. There's a new 2-litre naturally aspirated petrol, which is that one in front, I believe. 110 kilowatts. It's a bit up from the 103 kilowatts of the previous model, and you can get that in manual and auto. And then this with the turbo is a 1.6 carryover engine, and you can get it with a 7-speed dual clutch auto or a manual transmission. I say the engine is carryover, but it has been tweaked slightly. So it's got a new overboost function, and it provides boosts torque from 265 newton meters up to 275 newton meters. So it's a little bit of an increase there. So I am expecting improved performance from that alone, but there's also reduced weight compared with the previous model as well. I'll go into a bit more detail about the platform and everything a bit later on. Just while we're at the lights here, we can have a look at the interior. First impressions is it is still a bit monotone. There's a few little detail bits like red through there. I do like this sort of metallic finish on that, but yeah, it's all quite black. I don't know why that guy's gone that way, but anyway. Yeah, it's all quite monotone black. But it looks like Hyundai has sort of improved the quality. So it's got different textured plastics, and then it's got the wireless phone charging pad with a rubber base there, which is good. Some cars come with a plastic base and your phone just scratches around. We've got some snacks here, but at the bottom of that it is plastic, so there's no rubber pad there. But overall the quality feels quite high. Like all the buttons and the little knobs and things feel well put together, and it's, you know, it's what you expect for this price range anyway. So it is quite easy to get lost when you're part of these launches. So it's saying got to turn right. I might just follow this guy and take a risk.
In 300 meters, turn right onto Boundary Street.
The first thing I am noticing actually is the sound. So I was a bit disappointed with the sound of the previous model. It sounded, I don't know, really just generic and like a vacuum cleaner, and nothing really sporty about it. Whereas this, straight away, I can hear there's a bit of bass coming out the tailpipe as well. It doesn't sound like it's fake noise coming through the speakers.
Turn right onto Boundary
You can sort of hear this little burble, which is nice. I'll open it up when I can, but yeah, it's good that they've changed the exhaust a little bit. Keep going straight over here. I'm basically following this guy in front, so if he gets it wrong, that means I'm going to get it wrong too. But it looks like, yeah, we're going to go straight anyway. I'll try and put together a 0 to 100 test for you as well in a separate video. And yeah, I'll try and do all the models. Usually these launch events, they're pretty time restricted. Like on my, I've got this little card here that's got a exact program of what we're doing, and then I've got to go to the airport later on today to head back home. So it's quite tightly run, but if there's an extended lunch time, we can probably get out and grab a couple of cars. Not sure if you...
100 meters, turn left onto Gregory Terrace.
Not sure if you can see that, but there's a head-up display. It's like the old Mazda system where it's just a little plastic card that flips up. But it does the job. It's pretty detailed. It's got like a little sat-nav thing. I'm trying to move my head around so you can see it, but I'm not sure if you will. But it's got sat-nav directions, speed limit info, and your lane keeping assist little graphic there, and your speed, obviously. But yeah, you can definitely hear that engine. It's got a definite little bassy burble to it, especially low down in the revs. So I'm just leaving it in the normal default mode. There are a couple of different driving modes to choose from. So you've got Sport, Eco, Smart, which I'm guessing, I haven't read the full press kit yet, but I'm guessing Smart is sort of adaptable. So if you start flooring it everywhere, it'll sort of automatically go into Smart. Go into sort of sporty mode. And then Sport obviously just goes straight into the most aggressive settings. And then there's the Eco mode if you want to try and save some petrol with a relaxed throttle sensitivity. I'll just leave it in the normal to start with.
Turn left onto Gregory Terrace and then turn right.
There's no adaptive suspension or anything like that, or any sort of drastic changes to the driving settings. It's just the sort of steering and throttle sensitivity that change. Definitely looks good in my opinion. You can see a bit of the old model in it. There's a bit of tradition there, which is good, but it's all new, so it's all much more modern. You can see there's little contour sections in the rear bumper bar there. Vertical vents, diffuser at the back. It definitely looks sporty and distinctive. There's no other car that's like it really, because it's kind of a crossover between a coupe, as well as a bit of SUV in there, and then a normal hatchback. This is literally the first time that the Veloster has hit the road in Australia, so to the average onlooker, they'd probably be blown away a bit by this bunch of brand new Velosters driving around. Like almost all Hyundai models on sale in Australia, the Veloster comes with a Australian-specific suspension tune. Prototypes were tested here. Local engineers went out and done testing on Aussie roads to make sure that the suspension lives up to our standards, or not our standards, but our shoddy roads, I suppose you could say. Compared with Europe, some of Australia's back roads, particularly the country roads, are pretty bad. So you need a suspension system that can absorb the bumps, but it's also quite sporty and not too relaxed. We're up in Brisbane for the launch event. There are some nice roads up in the mountains or the hills, and I suspect that's where we're heading now. It'll give us a chance to test out the agility and the handling of the new model. It looks pretty good in that dark grey colour over there, doesn't it? It's with the black wheels, it looks very stealth. Then you've got the brand new yellow, if you really want to stand out. Sometimes I like to just drop to the back of the pack and let them go, and that way I can give myself a bit of space. If I want to go a bit faster or a bit slower, I don't have to worry about either holding someone up or being held up by anybody. We're not going to be heading to any track today, but it's not really a track car per se. That's for the Veloster N, which is unfortunately not set for Australia anytime soon anyway. As far as I know, they make it in left-hand drive production only. And the factory for right-hand drive just isn't set up to make the Veloster N. The suspension does feel nice so far. I mean, I've only driven it for about 10 kilometres, I suppose, or 5 kilometres it's saying. But it does feel nice. It's not too firm, not bone jarring. But as you probably know, the Veloster isn't a hardcore sports car. It's just a nice sporty car that's, going to be fun for a wide variety of drivers. I've just heard then the gearbox changed gear and it did do a little pop from the exhaust, which was nice. Similar steering wheel to the previous model. It's got Hyundai's very user-friendly button system. All your audio controls on the left, and then your little screen on the right there. You can go through and check various things. There might be a sport display, maybe. It doesn't look like it. Sometimes there's little sport displays that show you. You got your tyre pressures, which is good. Live tyre pressures, not just a monitor. It's sort of telling you the actual PSI, which is nice. Yeah, it's definitely got like a little sporty note. I'm impressed that it doesn't sound like the previous model. In Australia, this goes up against, according to the Federal Chamber of Automotive Industries anyway, it goes up against the Ford Mustang, Toyota 86, Subaru BRZ, Renault Megane RS, what else, Mazda MX-5. So it's sort of that entry-level sports car range. And in terms of the specs on paper, it's pretty good. I mean, it doesn't really compare to the Ford. Sorry, I'll just let this lady do her thing. It doesn't really compare to the Ford Mustang, but the rest of them, it's not too bad. Like a Toyota 86 produces about the same power, 153 kilowatts to this 150. And then the Mazda MX-5 produces about 20 kilowatts less than that, so it's ahead of that.
In 300 meters, keep left onto Waterworks Road.
Very user-friendly climate control system, as per usual Hyundai. You've got the little climate section there, and then your media up above here. I do like this sort of indented trimming that's housing the media controls. And it continues over to this other side as well.
Continue on current road for about 24 kilometers.
So we're up in the mountains now, which should be a good opportunity to test out the handling. And straight away it feels quite nice. It feels natural in surroundings like this. It doesn't feel uncomfortable. It feels like it wants to turn and get involved, which is nice. There's two new transmission modes with the automatic. You've got D, and you can flick it over to an S mode. So it will change gear by itself, but it's just a bit more aggressive, holds the gears and so on. And then as soon as you click the paddles or move the lever up and down or down, it becomes manual mode. So we'll try out manual mode. So a little bit of wheel spin now. I've still got the stability turned on. Nice suspension over those bumps. Didn't feel like it's, you know, torque steering or anything like that. Actually, I've still got it in normal mode, don't I? So I'll try it with sport. Oh yeah, the throttle became instantly more sensitive, so I don't need to move my foot very much at all to achieve acceleration. There's no extra power or anything like that. It's just the throttle sensitivity is increased, so you only need to touch the throttle to achieve yeah, it's good performance. Still has a bit of that sort of vacuum cleaner sound when you're just sort of on the overrun, but under load, it sounds quite good. The new model's got Michelin Pilot Sport 3 tyres, which are doing a wonderful job of keeping everything sorted. They're really good tyres. Very predictable. If they're going to slide, they'll sort of let you know before they do. They don't just instantly let go. But they provide lots and lots of grip. Definitely enough for this category of car. view over the side there. Sorry if I'm moving my head very quickly. It's because I don't know where I'm. Got to follow the road as well as show you the view. Yeah, it goes really nicely. It doesn't feel like it's lacking in power for this style of vehicle anyway. It provides a fair bit of excitement for what it is. I think what I'm loving the most so far is the suspension. So the tuning is, so far anyway, I haven't tested it completely, but it's definitely very nice along these roads. It's not throwing the car around, it's just absorbing the bumps and maintaining stability, which is really good for a vehicle of this category. The transmission seems to be changing gear very quickly and on time. As soon as you click the pedal, it's doing the shift. Little blip of the throttle on the downshift, not too aggressive, just a little bit. Yeah, it'll be interesting to test out the manual, and in that respect it's interesting that Hyundai even offers a manual, judging by the market trends, which are very much steering away from manual gearbox options. It is a shame. I do like the manual transmission, and I think we all appreciate and admire manual transmissions, but when it comes down to actually buying a car, we all go for, I've got an automatic car. If there was a manual available, I probably wouldn't buy it, because in day-to-day conditions, when you're just driving to work, sometimes you don't want to be shifting gears all the time, particularly if you live in the city, where constant stop-start, get your left thigh muscle going. But yeah, the automatic is much more relaxing. But as the dual clutch option shows us, that it's still sporty as well. So if you really want to get out into the mountains and go for a nice spirited drive, the dual clutch option is definitely supports you in that sort of area. Yeah, it's got a good amount of torque from. I do have it in sport mode, so it's my throttle movement is only small, but it's giving me pretty decent acceleration, but you can feel the torque is just right there ready. Some of that has to do with the weight of the car. So this is, I'll have to double check the specs, but it's about 1320 kilos, which is lighter than the equivalent Hyundai i30N line, which shares the same powertrain and platform, but it doesn't come with the overboost function. So you've got the overboost, and it's lighter than the i30N line, which is good. It does need some, in my opinion anyway, it does need some distinction apart from the styling. It does need some, even if it's minor, distinction between this and a regular hatchback, and it does. So you've got 10 extra Newton meters and less weight. We've come down from the mountains, and we're now in sort of, I wouldn't call it the outback, but out in the country. So we'll put it into normal mode and just cruise. So you'll see that the revs just drop then, goes straight into 7th gear, and it becomes just a normal cruising car. The most impressive aspect of this new model, in terms of the driving anyway, is definitely the handling. So it handles really well. The suspension, it catches the bumps, it doesn't disturb your tracking or anything like that, and it just gets on with going around the corner, and it's fun as well. It's not just going around the corner formally. It's quite engaging and exciting. It's fun, and yeah, that's probably the best part about the car. The steering feels quite nice as well. The previous model, the steering was definitely a bit on the numb side. You didn't get much feedback. It did what it was told, but it was a bit, there was no sort of back and forth communication. Whereas this is nice. It's a nice balance. It's not too fidgety on the highway either, so you don't need to make constant adjustments when you're driving just along a straight road, but there's still, it's pretty sharp and precise enough for this style of car. The weakest link in terms of the driving is probably the brakes. So coming down the mountain, the pedal started to just, I don't know whether it was the fluid sort of boiling or getting too hot, or the pads maybe glazing over, but that was probably the weakest link. I wouldn't say they're bad brakes at all. They were pulled up every time, and you just push the pedal even harder, and it did pull up just fine. I just noticed the pedal felt a bit sort of, what's the word? Yeah, it was just a bit of vibration there, and a bit sort of under a bit of stress. It seems fine now though. The pedal feel is back to normal, yeah, everything's fine. The gearbox held up really well, so I definitely went through a lot of the gears and pushed it back and forth, up and down, which can sometimes uncover a few problems, or not problems, but it starts to be a bit delayed. It starts to overheat a little bit, but not this one. It kept going, kept doing what it was told every time. There's no hassle there at all. It actually changes up gears, I've noticed, under anything above sort of 50%. If you upshift while you're coming around a bend, it'll actually cause the traction control to come on, and it'll start spinning the wheels as it goes into sort of second and even third gear. If you're coming around a nice tight corner and you're down into second, and you click the plus paddle and into third, it will sort of chirp the wheel and spin the wheel a little bit. So it's very sharp changing gearbox. So here we are in the naturally aspirated 2-litre engine. This is an upgrade from the previous 1.6-litre naturally aspirated engine. More power and torque and larger capacity means it's a bit more effortless in its power delivery. So you don't need to push it quite so much to extract the most out of it. Obviously, if you want pure performance, you'll go for the turbo, but it's quite a refined engine. It's not too noisy, as in the negative word noisy, as it doesn't intrude in the cabin. It is a bit of a screamer, as naturally aspirated engines usually are, but it's not too bad. I'll just give it the full beans. So it does rev quite high, but again, I think they've done well with the sound insulation to reduce the noise coming into the cabin. It doesn't sound quite as sporty as the turbo model, but there is, there's a certain bass to it. It's not completely tinny and screamy like the previous engine was. There's no S mode with the 6-speed torque converter automatic. You flick it across to the right, you'll just get manual mode. So you do have to change gear yourself, but there's no paddle shifters. So you've got to use the plus and minus of the gear shifter. Obviously, if you're pretty hardcore driving enthusiast, you're going to want the turbo. So you get that S mode and the paddle shifters as a bonus. So I've just had lunch up at a nice winery up there, and I've just pulled this one away so we can have a closer look at it. This is the base spec turbo with the manual transmission. The easiest way to tell the base spec is the wheels. The other one's got these little arrow style wheels, whereas this has just got the twin spoke style in black, and it doesn't have the black roof. So the premium one's got a full black roof with a glass section up the top here, which actually might be optional for that glass bit. But as you can see, it does have some characteristics of the first gen Veloster. Same sort of proportions, even the details, the tail lights and everything, they're the similar sort of theme, but all new. And it really is all new. So this is based on the latest i30 platform, and the biggest change there is multi-link rear suspension. The old version had a torsion beam rear suspension, which was, you can set up torsion beams so they're pretty good, but multi-link is just more comprehensive, gives you more flexibility, and often produces better handling vehicle. In my opinion, multi-link's also better at catching bumps. So when you're going around those sort of sweeping bends on the country roads and the back's bouncing around, sometimes you might get a single wheel bounce up and then cause the whole car to sort of shake around a bit, whereas multi-link, to me, seems to catch the bumps and sort them out a bit better without sort of changing direction of your driving. So it is good that Hyundai's moved to a multi-link system. Being the turbo, you've got the twin tailpipes at the back there, poking out straight from the middle, and you've also got a 1.6T badge. I think it looks really good. It's definitely eye-catching on the road. It looks distinctive, something different. Bit of hot hatch, bit of SUV, and a bit of hatchback. And of course, the third door carries over from the previous model as well. So the idea behind this is that it has the coupe sort of proportions and style, but the practicality of a hatch. So you can easily get in here. I'll just move my bag out of the way. So you can easily fit in here with no problems at all. I've got decent headroom. I mean, it's getting close, but it's not too bad if you take this as a coupe. If you take it as a practical hatch, then yes, there is a bit of a restriction here. It's a bit tighter in that sort of comparison. A big change that Hyundai's made for the new model is this end of the roof here, or the end of the ceiling. So the previous model, the hatch used to end about here. So when the hatch actually closes, if you were tall, the hatch lid would actually close on top of your head. Whereas now, as you can see, it's right back there. So there's no chance of anybody getting their head squashed as someone shuts the boot. That's a good move. The gap here is also wider. I'll flash up some specs now, but yeah, this is all a bit wider and a bit easier to get in and out of. Got a couple of cup holders here, little tray. There's no armrest that folds down in this specific model. But overall, it's quite comfortable for a sports car. You've got to remember, this is categorized as a sports car and not a hatchback. We'll just check out that boot. I was a bit confused on how to open the boot at the start, so there's nothing under there. It's this little hook just under the wiper blade there. So that is a little bit smaller than the previous model, and you've got a little net here to secure smaller items. You've got baby seat tether points as well, if you want to put a baby seat in the back, which you can do in a coupe or some coupes, two doors, I mean. But I think this will be a lot easier trying to get a toddler or a baby into the back of that, thanks to the door, as opposed to a traditional coupe without the door, trying to thread your baby through the front. What I do find a bit odd is this passenger side door is actually shorter, so that's a shorter door than the driver's door. And I don't know how that works out with balancing and all that sort of, the weight. Surely the weight balance is different. Left to right, or maybe they've figured it out so it's exactly the same, it's just different points where the door shuts and things. I don't know the answer to that, but yeah, that's pretty interesting, the way that it's got this long door on the driver's side. We'll have a look at the front and I'll show you some of the features and then we'll just wrap it up. So this being the non-premium version, doesn't come with full leather seats or electric adjustable seats, it's just got manual adjustable. Most of the trim is carried over from the premium. Just wait for that to be quiet. Most of the trim is carried over from the premium version. I mean, well, it's shared with the premium version. It's not drastically different for the dash or anything like that. The instrument cluster has also got these analog gauges on the sides, just like the premium version. There's just a few less options, or fewer options. So it doesn't come with those heated and cooled seats for the passenger and the driver, and it doesn't come with a heated steering wheel. Also missing is the wireless charging pad, but you've got multiple sockets here for charging things. Little storage box in the middle and a decent sized glove box. All models come with a touchscreen media interface with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. There's a few inbuilt apps in here as well that you can play through. Oops. It's a pretty good screen. I don't have any sort of problems with it. I mean, it could have a bit more depth to it. It has been around for a while, this sort of layout, but it does its job. There's nothing really, that you can complain about, especially in this market segment. We'll go for a little drive in this manual version. I'll give you a bit of a demo, but we're going to be heading back to the airport, and I'll wrap it up as we're driving along. The clutch is really light. The gear shift feels quite nice as well. It's not notchy or anything like that. You can blip the throttle and go for a bit of a racing sort of style of gear change or down change. And yeah, you can definitely feel that torque. There is a tiny bit of what feels like turbo lag to me, because you put your foot sort of down at any degree, and there's a sorry, any degree, and there's a bit of a just a fraction delay. I'll try and show you that. I'm going down a hill, so it's probably not going to be as obvious, but I'll put my foot down, say about a quarter right now, and it's just that slight bit of a delay. But you are getting that overboost. That's probably the overboost kicking in, actually, and it does feel quite strong. Overall, though, I think Hyundai has done a great job of evolving this car. It is quite an iconic car for the brand. It's a bit of a hero car for Hyundai at the moment as well. They don't really have anything that really stands out. I mean, they've got the N models, but they are based on the i30, whereas this is a standalone sort of product that stands out as something completely different. And I think, yeah, Hyundai's done a good job of evolving it. It's faster, it's lighter, it handles definitely a lot better, it sounds better, better connectivity as well. The interior is nicer, a bit more practical. Yeah, so everything is moved up a notch, which is, you know, a healthy way of bringing in a new model. That's the way it should be, really. I do like that Hyundai is offering a big variety of models. So you've got manual and auto for both the non-turbo and turbo. So it doesn't really matter what sort of driver you are, or, you know, your skill level or your preference even. There's something to suit what you need, and also the budget as well. So your budget is, with being an entry model with a manual transmission, that helps obviously bring down the price. And then the full top spec model with the black roof and everything will help you stand out a bit if that's what you want. Excuse me. And it's you pay a bit of a premium for it. The overall Refinement feels a lot better as well, even though there is a seatbelt rattling on the door there. I think this is a much quieter vehicle to drive than the previous model. There's less sort of echoing and sort of even the wheel bearings and things echoing through the chassis. There seems to be a bit less of that. The tyre noise, it's obviously got the better tyres, but yeah, it just seems like a more refined vehicle than the previous model. I did manage to put together some 0 to 100 videos for you, so just search around on the YouTube channel. They should be somewhere around this video, uploaded at about the same time. I managed to do a test of both the manual and auto of both the non-turbo and turbo for you. It is just 0 to 100 because we are just on public roads. So I'll try and book in a couple of examples, and we'll do our proper test on our private road and do some quarter-mile runs. But I probably won't do all 4 of them. If you want to suggest some models in the comments of which variant you'd rather us test, feel free. If not, we'll probably just do the turbo and maybe the non-turbo, and do a bit more of an in-depth test for it. For more information, you can check out the full written review on the website, which is linked in the description of this video, and I'll go over more of the details, including the specifications, standard features, and the differences between the old model and the new model. The pricing structure is also in there for Australia. Thanks for watching.